Welcome to the Two Guys, One Coup podcast with Dale and Jim, where the truth matters and progressives' feelings don't. We bring you the facts from the perspective of two average, everyday guys who will never apologize for being America first, for adhering to our great Constitution, and for saluting the flag that our brothers and sisters have fought and died for. And now, here's Dale and Jim.
Welcome, everybody, to Two Guys, One Coup, episode 25. Jim, you look handsome today.
Well, thank you, as do you, but you look handsome all the time, though. So
that's the hell I live with, my friend. It's the hell I live with.
Right.
Welcome, everybody. This is, like mentioned, episode 25 of Two Guys, One Coup. Thank you all for continuing to listen, watch, support, like, comment, share. It's been great. Good feedback so far. Jim, we have some stuff we want to get into today. We are going to start off with the fact that the movie 2000 Mules was released this past weekend for either viewing in a theater or virtually. You could download it and view it, and you'll kind of tell us about that. But you saw the movie. I have yet to see it. I need to see it. I know a lot about it, but we're going to go into your review of that. And some of the other things that have happened with that, plus a couple other stories that we're going to get to today. So, Jim, let's get on with this 2000 Mules review, and I'll let you go first.
Okay, I watched it on Saturday. Oops. And it, like you said, you talked about it on one of the previous episodes that Dinesh D'Souza was making this with True the Vote.
Correct.
And those people, I want to reiterate by how I like how they set it up, because as they introduced, and I'll get to the whole thing, but as they introduced True the Vote, they talked about how they came into light on a race in North Carolina where a Republican candidate was cheating. Doing basically what the Democrats did in 2020. He did it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and they went out and they helped overturn that election.
Wow.
So they are a bipartisan group. They are not partisan at all. They literally want fair and equal elections. That's what it's all about. That's, they don't take a side on what political party.
Yep.
But the show starts out basically like Dinesh D'Souza does, talking about, what happened, and reference January 6th and stuff like that. But he had Larry Elder, a circle with conservative people, Charlie Kirk,
which I will talk about a little later, Charlie Kirk. But
Dennis Prager, and
Prager University.
And I can't remember for the life of me the names escaping me at this point, but the other guy that was on there. So, but I should have wrote all this down when I was watching it. But so they started out by asking me. Dennis Prager was pretty adamant. Larry Elder was, he started out, yeah, something happened. There's no way. You can't tell me what you and I talked about, that Joe Biden got 80 million votes, which was more votes than Obama got in his second term that he ran in his second term. You and I have been saying that since day one. But Dennis Prager was the one that, he was pretty adamant. He said, look, do I believe something happened? Do I believe that he got 80 million votes? No. However, I need to see some hard evidence in order to move on from that. I need to see it. Now, of course, the other guys on the show are like, well, what more do you need to see? This and that. And he goes, we've seen nothing. We've seen, Sidney Powell talking about all this stuff she had, never went anywhere. None of this stuff went anywhere. Well,
Giuliani, all of them.
Right. So what it did is it started talking to these individuals from True the Vote, and there was this guy that had this geo-tracking. Okay. Now, they explain geo-tracking, folks, and it can be done because it's from cell phone towers where it can actually identify you as an individual, where you have been. Now, this has been going on since day one, guys. This is how
they use it in murder investigations.
Right, exactly. And that's one of the things in this movie that they referenced. A little girl was killed in Atlanta, Georgia, and geo-tracking narrowed it down to who it could have been.
Correct.
And then they found out who it was. So that's how they introduced it to see how accurate it was. So they started out by talking about these mules. Okay. And they used Atlanta, Georgia for, but they were in Atlanta, Georgia, Phoenix, Arizona, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Detroit, Michigan, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Do these
Wow,
states sound familiar with this at all? So anyway.
If anybody doesn't remember, that's the states that stopped counting.
Yep. Yeah. So what it did, they talked about these mules, and they used geo-tracking to track individuals who, in some cases, now I'm going to say these numbers wrong, so I'm going to get some of the numbers close, but I'm just giving you an idea what they found out. So watch the movie. I encourage it. But for instance, in Philadelphia,
whether you're Democrat or Republican,
exactly,
you should watch this movie.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter. It was cheating. Okay, but so 1,100 mules in Philadelphia alone, and of these 1,100 mules, they broke it down by saying, okay, they were able to track these 1,100 mules go into these different voting ballots. You know, those ballots that were put out there. You know, the temporary ballots to help you go in. So what they would do is they would show these people going to all of these different ballots, some of them up to 27 of them. So you have one individual going to 27 and this was in a 6-week period, 6-week, whatever period when they started doing early voting. Yep. So they calculated based on 1,100 mules. Let's say they went to 27 ballots, or so they broke it down to 10. They said, okay, there's 1,100 went to 10, and each of them had 3 votes. 3 vote.
You talk about so let me get this straight real quick. So 1,100 mules went to 10 ballot dropping.
At least 10.
At least 10 ballot drop boxes.
Yep.
You take those with just say a minimum of 3 ballots per. Okay.
Yep. And they had some pretty good numbers that came up. But what it did is, what I like how they did is they introduced it on how they track different people. They showed one guy in particular, okay, because there's some people that went to 27. One person individual went to 27, but it was always around these quote unquote not-for-profit places that they would always stop by. So they would show them stopping at these not-for-profit places. This one guy in particular, and this one was in Atlanta. He stopped by this particular place while he went to these ballots. Well, what they do is they hand them these ballots and then they go drop them in the ballot boxes and then take pictures of the ballot box. And
the individual takes a picture to prove that he did it?
To prove that he did it so he could get paid.
That's what it is.
And in some cases, they were getting $10 per ballot they dropped in there.
What?
Yeah. So, okay, so they were able to trace this. So everyone, you can sit here and say, okay, wait a minute, that doesn't really show anything. Now, remember, these are all these different states, okay? I think Georgia had, they figured out Georgia had anywhere between 250 to 300, I think. Obviously, Philadelphia had the most. I think Michigan had the second most. And remember, it was only in the major cities. Okay, I just mentioned to you, Detroit, Atlanta, Philadelphia. So they're going all around. And now what they did, and this is what's really cool, all of these boxes that they put out there had cameras set up. Because if somebody came and vandalized the box, they want to know who did it, right? So they drew the vote. Requested.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Who put the cameras up?
Well, the federal government did because of the ballot boxes. They're federal ballot boxes, right? So the cameras were put up by the governments. The governments, so they could, because if somebody goes and vandalizes a box, they want to know who did it, right?
Yeah.
So the True the Vote asked for this video. Now, they got it from a lot of people, mostly in Atlanta. The show was based mostly in Atlanta about what happened in Atlanta. And now they did show letters from when they sent these, like to Phoenix, Arizona, and all these places. Can we see the videos that showed on these ballot boxes from this different time period? Oh, those weren't working. They got a lot of letters, and they actually showed the letters on the show where it said that we don't have any video. Yeah, right. And it's like some people, though, must not have realized what they were doing with it because they gave it to them freely. So with the geo-tracking, they were able to go to these cameras and find out on a particular day at a particular time when these people show up to these drop boxes.
Of course. You can narrow it down that precisely with that.
Yep. Yeah, so they show these.
They use it in murder cases, Jim. Yeah.
So there's a lot of this stuff bothered me, but one of them in particular was this guy during the day. This is there's a box outside of an actual voting place. and people are standing in line to go in an early vote. So there's like maybe a half a dozen people standing in this. And there's this one guy actually talking to the guy. And this guy comes in, reaches into his backpack, takes out, it looks like maybe 3 or 4 ballots, puts them in the box, and then takes a picture. They call it the dog guy because he was walking a dog.
Yeah.
So then he walks away, but there's actually people watching him. Now, maybe it's because I pay more attention than most people, but if I was standing in line and I saw something like that, wouldn't you say something?
I would say something, but Jim, you got to understand, they're so focused. How many of those people were looking at their own phones?
Well,
but your eyes are down. You're not paying attention to your surroundings.
They showed people staring at him and watching him. I mean, they actually were watching this guy. So they had all of this going.
But most people probably didn't even fathom at that time that, this has got to be like something illegal just happened.
Yeah.
Like, you probably just doesn't even fathom with your day-to-day stuff. You're there to vote. You're not paying attention because it hadn't come out yet.
Yep.
It was being done.
So we go as this one. This was, to me, all of this was disturbing, but this one was probably the most disturbing one. During the runoffs in Georgia, where ironically we lost both. The Republicans lost both.
So this is after, people know, this is after the November election in 2020. They had a runoff for 2 Senate seats.
In Georgia.
Correct?
Yep.
In Georgia. Both Senate seats.
Yep. So, so what they did was, at this point in time, it was enough time that people were being prosecuted in Arizona, because they actually did. That people were prosecuted, and they were able to find fingerprints on the ballots. That's one of the ways they were able to trace back to find out who did that. So this woman on this video walks completely past this trash can, didn't even look over at the trash can, just walks away from the trash can. So how would you know the trash can's there, right? They just show walking up, wearing blue surgical gloves. So takes out puts them in there, takes a picture, takes off the gloves, throws them away in the trash can.
Which would not be unusual at the time because
that's why they did it.
Because of COVID.
Yep.
Everybody was wearing gloves to do this or gloves to do that. So
but the key thing is they took the gloves off and threw them away.
Yeah.
This particular woman lived in South Carolina.
And was in Georgia?
And she was in Atlanta, Georgia, putting votes in these ballot boxes for voting for the midterm. This was the runoff.
This is the runoff.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they had her going to multiple locations.
Have they? So let me ask you a question without giving away the entire movie. I don't care if you do. I'm going to watch it anyways. And everybody listening to us should. Have there been any prosecutions against any mules? Because if you can geotrack them, you can clearly find them.
Now, the one that I saw was Arizona. There's actually some active lawsuits going on where a woman who actually did come out. Now, they blacked her out. You couldn't see her face or anything else. She was a secretary, and she admitted what they did. They they were told to give a certain amount to people when they come up. They say who they were, handed to them, and then they went.
But this lady from, they know is from South Carolina, came over, did this, got paid by,
Well, see, that's
somebody.
That's at the end. This is what Dennis Prager and Larry Adler and all these guys said. The FBI has to get involved now.
Yeah.
We have to get involved because there's evidence here. And I loved how they did it because they did the geo-tracking first, and then they went to the video. And then, ironically, a lot of video cameras weren't working at the time they requested it. I think the video cameras were deleted. In my opinion, I think they let's get rid of all the track and all this stuff and do all that. Well, what come to really find out how this worked, where they were able to why you can't go back and track what that ballot was because voter rolls. You and I talked about voter rolls, right? Wisconsin,
which are a farce.
Yeah, in Wisconsin, which this has nothing to do with the Mules, the 2000 Mules that we're talking about from the Gableman report, and they did reference the Gableman report in this movie.
Good.
But the voter rolls need to be updated all the time because people move out, people die, okay,
Mm-hmm.
or people just they don't vote anymore, okay,
Yeah.
whether they can't sound, which we know in Wisconsin, people not sound
Mm-hmm.
mind and body were voting.
Yeah.
So they take this voter roll. So then when they were mailing these out, which Donald Trump in one of the debates said, this is going to be the
Yes, he
most
did.
cheated election we've ever had.
He
Okay,
did say that.
because they a lot of these states who don't normally send out ballots. Remember, you have to ask for an absentee ballot or an early voting
Mm-hmm.
ballot. You have to ask for it, and then they send it to you. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they just sent out to the voter roll. Well, we all know that there's a number of people on that voter roll that aren't going to be at those locations. They're not going to be. So people were collecting those.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's what was being handed. They were being filled out. And then that's what was being handed to these mules.
Correct.
So you
Correct.
can't sit there and say, wait a minute, I didn't get my, it says you voted. No, that's not what this
Mm-hmm.
is. This is actually
Yeah.
people who were dead or who had
Yep.
moved out that sent it out. So again, so we got a couple things happen, right? First
Mm-hmm.
off, here's these illegal ballots being harvested and being put in
Mm-hmm.
these ballot boxes. And the second one, why weren't they being checked?
Correct.
So, and if somebody does check it only to the extent that, yep, this person's on the voter roll, we're good, they're
Mm-hmm.
registered,
Yep.
without looking and seeing, like in the case of Wisconsin, oh, this person, these 100,000 people registered to vote in 1900.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Right. So
So,
those, yeah.
so that's how they were able to get away with it and not
Mm-hmm.
actually have to track. Now, I honestly think that we could do this, guys. Okay, this can be easily done. You take those ballots that were turned in, you take them to the voter rolls, and you look and
Mm-hmm.
say, yeah, this person was. But guess what? Some of these states did.
They got rid of it.
They
They
got
got rid
rid
of
of
the
them.
ballots.
They got rid of them. They're
Mm-hmm.
gone. So now you can't look
Yep.
at it. Now you can't go into it. So, um, but as you go through this movie, you get more and more angry. Okay, because
Mm-hmm.
you had the Glenn Becks of the world, and you had even Donald Trump himself said there's cheating going to go on here.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the things they talked about, and you and I have talked about this before, they showed CNN, MSNBC during the election night talking about how Donald Trump is ahead in all these
Mm-hmm.
states. Okay, he's
Right.
ahead in all these states. And then they come on the next morning and saying, well, unprecedented, they even admitted unprecedented, there's actually states that actually stopped counting.
Mm-hmm.
Just so happened to be these particular 5 states, right?
Where the
And then
cities were. Yep.
ironically at 10 o'clock in the morning, all of a sudden, and they even admit this on every show, that now with the counting starting back up, Joe Biden has gained leads in all these states.
Yep.
so
Yep.
so
Yep.
with that stuff alone, without all of this stuff on election night, which is why
Mm-hmm.
we all thought something's not right here.
Correct.
Never has. If there's ever been a situation where a state had stopped counting, maybe. I didn't look into it. Maybe there had been. But these are 5. Not just 5 states. These are 5 of these swing states that are
Correct.
very important. Now,
Correct.
some of this stuff was found in Colorado
Mm-hmm.
as well, but Colorado wasn't a swing state, and there's not
Mm-hmm.
really much. But it will go to that one woman that was, remember we talked about, that was
Yep.
being prosecuted right now because she wouldn't turn
Correct.
over because she felt something went wrong. She felt there was
Yep.
cheating.
Correct.
Well, anyway, at the end of it, what it all comes out to is from their research, they did the votes. Okay, they
Mm-hmm.
took the mules. Then they said how many times they voted particular. So they always did averages, right? So they took the mules and to get away from any kind of, okay, how do you know this? So they went with, let's say they went with 500 mules.
Mm-hmm.
And all 500 went to 20 different locations and dropped at a minimum 10 ballots. That's what they
Mm-hmm.
showed over the time, not one night,
Yep.
over all
Yep.
this time. So they came out with these numbers. Well, Arizona wouldn't have flipped. So Arizona stayed in Biden's camp. Wisconsin wouldn't have flipped.
Mm-hmm.
I was wrong. Hold on. Wisconsin wouldn't have flipped. Wisconsin stayed in Biden's. Michigan stayed in
Mm-hmm.
Biden's. So it wasn't enough to get them over the difference between the two.
Mm-hmm.
Arizona, it was enough. So
Mm-hmm.
Arizona would have went to Trump, out of Biden into Trump.
Yeah.
Georgia, out of Biden into Trump.
Mm-hmm.
By a huge amount in
Yeah.
Pennsylvania. out of Biden into Trump. So
well, those three alone would have given him over 270 electoral votes.
That did it. That would have got it. Okay.
Yeah.
And then they went in and said, okay, so let's go down now. Let's go down to those numbers and let's bring all these numbers down to 3 ballots. If they only did 3, not 10, if they only did 3. Then, and they did all this calculations, they did it, and then they showed that Michigan and Wisconsin would have went to Trump. He would have had 303 electoral votes.
Me.
No. So, now,
wow.
They are not, and what I liked about and I wish I remember her name, but the woman who runs True to Vote, you might know who she is.
Catherine Engelbrecht.
Yep, that's it. Catherine Engelbrecht. Yeah. Okay. What I liked about what she said was Dinesh kept asking her, this needs to be prosecuted. This was cheating. And she goes, according to the video that we found and according to the geo-tracking that we did, we feel law enforcement needs to look into it. It was so good how she put this out there. You know, she didn't sit here and say, oh, yeah. Well, then at the end, he goes, so you're saying that this was not the most secure, because you know how many times we had to hear all that from Republicans as well, right?
Yeah,
Liz Cheney, they showed Liz Cheney. They showed all these, hey, guys, we just have to accept the fact that we lost, right? You know, this and that. The most secured election that we've ever had. And no, it wasn't. And we all knew that it wasn't.
We knew that.
Because, you know, and I'm going to be honest with you. I have a lot of liberal people that I know. They don't care. I honestly believe in my heart of hearts, they don't care if they cheated Trump's out. They don't care. They absolutely don't care. And they won't be appalled by this. And they don't want to whereas the difference is, because they're going to kind of say, well, you wouldn't have been appalled if somebody cheated to Obama. And I said, yeah, I would have.
Bullshit.
Because that's all we have. Our free elections. Okay, that is all we have. And so anyway, so it comes out to basically what this movie did. The movie did show that, guys, there was a lot of cheating going on. Now Michigan, and I want to just bring this up for one reason only. I think Michigan, even though Michigan may not have swung to Trump, right? It may not have gone to Trump, may have stayed in Biden's camp, but who cares? That's not what the important thing about it. You remember that African-American Republican that was running for Senate. If that
out of Detroit,
if some of this cheating would have happened on this particular guy, because those votes were very close, right?
Yeah.
That's what concerns me more from the Michigan standpoint. Not that Biden won. It concerned me more because you can get away with the Biden thing, right? Because of the unions and because of all this stuff and everything else. But what I get is that this African-American lost in Detroit. I just don't buy it. It's with as much as he lost by. Okay.
Who did he lose to? Was his opponent African-American?
No,
was his opponent?
I don't believe that. The incumbent was I believe a white current. It was an incumbent senator.
Yeah.
So, you know, so this movie did show that investigations need to happen. And what I like what Dennis Prager said, I think it was Dennis, maybe Charlie Kirk, I can't remember, but one of the guys on the panel said, it's very easy to do. You got videotape of these guys. You go out and get them, bring them in and talk to them. It's real simple. You got the evidence right here. You have
That's what I'm thinking.
So go bring them in, talk to them, and then by God, they're going to talk. They're going to talk. Everybody's going to talk, and you're going to go down.
They are.
Okay.
Sure,
now
they are.
Look, the Zuckerbergs aren't going to get in trouble.
No.
George Soros isn't going to get in trouble. And even for that matter, Obama isn't going to get in trouble. None of these guys are going to get in trouble, even though you can't convince me they didn't know this was going on.
Of course they did.
So we know there's going to be sacrificial lambs along the way. It always the way it is, right? So, but all I'm saying is that I was one of these people, and I will admit that I was one of these people that said, I believe something happened, but I need to see the evidence. Well, between the Gableman report and what we talked about in Wisconsin and what this 2000 Mules said, okay, guys, that's it. There's our evidence right there. Now, and again, we're not talking overturning the election. That's not what we're saying. I am not sitting here saying, okay, get Biden, even though I'd love it. But let's get Biden out of there and put Trump back in. That's not what we're saying, and that's not necessarily what they were saying on this show. What they were saying is the same thing you and I have been saying. Let's fix it.
It can't happen again.
No, let's fix it. Let's
make it happen again.
No more mail-in votes, because everybody knew that mail-in votes, you can't keep track of it. You don't know who's voting for it. When you lose sight of who is actually voting. You're done.
Mm-hmm.
You can't fix that. So
Nope.
you've got states like Washington and Oregon that all do mail-in. Everything's mail-in ballot, which those two states, they haven't voted Republican since Reagan. So, with all due respect, they're not going to do it anyway. So, but that's not the issue. It's making it widespread.
Correct.
Going into the places like the Georgias and stuff. And they use the pandemic, right? I mean, they use the pandemic for that, which you have been touting on our podcasts. You've been touting this yourself since day one, since we started. Look at all the COVID cases that they're talking about now, all the Dems that are getting the COVID, this and that, this and that. Because I personally believe, as do you, they want to do this again.
It'll happen again.
Only way to do it again is to, and then one last thing on
drop boxes and mail-in voting. That's
Republican, they actually had some people hire this private investigator to sit out and monitor boxes. Okay. And he recorded boxes, and he actually talked to one of the guys. He says, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "What do you mean? What am I doing?" And he goes, 3:00 in the morning, you're dropping off ballots. And
who votes at 3 in the morning?
And this guy started. He goes. This guy started getting yelling at him. You can't do that. You can't record me. That's against my. He goes. With all due respect, I can. So they were defending it. So he took off and left. I mean, he ran. So now this guy who has reached out to the RNC said that he'd be willing to testify if he's called to testify, but no one has called him to testify.
Of course not, because you have Ronna McDaniel, who I think is a never Trumper. You've got Kevin McCarthy, you've got Mitch McConnell. Those are your three leaders in the Republican Party, and they're all spineless, backstabbing son of a bitches.
But after this, and it's even now, because are you seeing anybody talk about it?
No.
And
you talk about the movie or talk about the
movie?
Well, in the groups I hang around with, whether it's social media or in person, people are talking about it.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about...
That's what I'm saying.
Yep.
The mainstream.
Tucker Carlson is the only one on Fox that has even talked about any of this stuff.
Correct.
Has anybody had Dinesh D'Souza on to try and to have him on CNN to have him try and disclaim what he put out?
Correct.
There, right? You're not seeing it.
No, you're not going to expose it. They're not going to expose it. They want to. This is they want to bury it. Hence the Roe versus Wade leak.
Yep.
Hence, everything else, distraction, instead of going against, the current
and look, fix it.
Real issues.
We had a report back in 2016. Remember, there was a certain lady that got upset because she lost. And
I wonder who that is.
This is where the Russia collusion came in, right? Mm-hmm. This is where that report and that investigation turned in to the Durham report.
Correct.
Come to find out, there was no bearing on it. There was this Christopher Steele created this dossier, and there's prosecution coming down. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. This is probably the closest. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but this is the closest Hillary Clinton will come to jail ever. Where she probably should go to jail for a hell of a lot more than what she has done. Look back at all the people that committed suicide that the Clintons knew. Some of us know
Seth Rich, Jeffrey Epstein.
Some of us know 3 or 4, maybe 3 or 4. That might be high for some. Some know 0. Okay,
correct.
But they've had like over 30. So and it's all people that were a part of their group that were involved in all this other stuff. So
Jim, can I jump right on board?
Go ahead.
I'm not switching gears.
Ahead.
I'm jumping right on board with your movie, and so it's an interesting. It goes right along with it, but apparently, according to evidence in the movie, which you have seen, it says Trump would have won like 305 electoral votes if that was all the case.
Yep.
Apparently in April, so a month ago, Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk, who was on in the movie with the Round Group, went on with Joe Hoft. Now, I don't know if Joe Hoft was in this movie or not, but Joe Hoft is the editor of the Gateway Pundit, which everybody on the left will tell you is just all fake news. Okay? That's what they'll tell you.
It would be our version of, what is that one? Dang it, the left. Huffington Post.
Oh yeah,
It would
correct.
be our version of the Huffington Post, what they're
That's right.
accusing. So
correct. So Kirk, who was featured in a film, said this about the evidence collected from him. They saw that some of these mules would visit these drop boxes every night, which you've discussed, and then go to Stacey Abrams' headquarters and then back to the drop boxes. So Stacey Abrams, if you don't know, is the failed gubernatorial candidate for the Democrats in the state of Georgia. She is running again. She's going to try again, but she also was one who claimed that she won and the vote was stolen and all that. But that was okay, YouTube and everybody else, to leave that shit up there. But so anyway, so they're saying that the movie discusses the Democrat-linked stash houses, but does not mention any names or locations.
Right.
Well, yeah. So apparently, they're saying Stacey Abrams better find a good lawyer because that geo-tracking followed those people all the way back to headquarters of Stacey Abrams. They'd go there, they'd leave, go to the drop box, come back to Stacey Abrams' headquarters, leave, and go to the drop boxes.
Yeah. When I first
is anybody with a brain cell in their bee-brained heads not look at that and think they cheated? This is clearly cheating. How do you not? You can't defend this.
Now, the movie did not say Stacey Abrams.
Correct.
The movie said not-for-profit centers where these ballots were being sent.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So now Stacey Abrams, if that was the case, anybody ever hear Stacey Abrams talk?
Yes.
She's not conservative at all.
Oh, no.
And she is probably, I'm going to say, as evil, maybe a little bit more evil than AOC in some cases. And this is a scary woman. And Georgia, I don't know if we have anybody. Your son is listening to us in Georgia.
For sure.
This woman cannot become your governor.
And his buddies. Oh, my God.
She cannot
destroy it.
become your governor.
She'll destroy Georgia.
God.
But they've already tried by the Senate seats. They've already done that. If she becomes governor, there goes the state of Georgia. It will look a lot like the state of California, if that's what you want. If you want California and Georgia, then Stacey Abrams, you're a candidate. You know, I don't think anybody wants that. But so this was Jim. This just kind of jumped on board, but it was last month when Charlie Crook was on with Jim Hoff on 93.3 FM to discuss the movie. And even, just so you know, this whole Stacey Abrams going back to the headquarters, Catherine Engelbrat also confirms it and says, you best get a damn good lawyer. So, Jim, do you want to move on to what might be another segment of our show here today, do you?
Sure.
Let's get this going. Abortion's still in the news, in case anybody hasn't forgotten. Have you heard? This just in. But what I want to talk about it is apparently the leak that happened last week from Justice Scalia. Is it Scalia?
Alito.
Alito. It's Justice Alito from his draft. Scalia, God rest his soul. I mean, why would I say that?
That's all right.
Anyways, we need him. But anyways, apparently that leak has not done so well in the polling as the Democrats had intended for the leak to do. Let's be honest.
Oh, because riots. Go ahead.
Let's be honest. This show's going to be taken off YouTube. This
will not be on YouTube.
Yeah, this one's not going to be on YouTube. I mean, you're going to have to catch it quick. Anyways, so this from the Western Journal. The leak of the draft, a Supreme Court opinion that would overturn Roe v. Wade and return the issue of legalized abortion to the individual states,
which it should,
which was supposed to energize Democrats ahead of the midterms. Well, I think they've seen an energy level from the paid actors who are out there with "Let us kill our baby" signs, whatever their signs are saying. However, it looks like, according to a CNN poll, Jim, taken between May 3rd and 5th, Republicans hold a 7% lead over the Democrats in the generic ballot. This is after the leak came out.
And it's increasing.
This poll was taken.
It's increasing then.
And it's increasing.
Mm-hmm.
The draft opinion happened on May 2nd. The poll was taken on between April 28th and May 1st. The generic, so this was the one beforehand, there was a 1% difference on that CNN poll. So that's what you were talking about, how it's increased to 7% since the leak.
Yeah.
Totally an adverse reaction to what they thought was going to happen. While CNN touted its poll as showing Americans remain broadly opposed to overturning the Roe v. Wade decision, that didn't translate to a bump for Democrats. How good of CNN to admit that their polling didn't do that. Quote, the share of registered voters who say they're extremely or very enthusiastic about voting this fall rose 6 points between the first survey and the second. But that increase is even across party lines. Among Democrats, 43% now say they are extremely or very enthusiastic. So that is up 7 points.
Right.
Among Republicans, it's up 9 points. And voters who say overturning Roe would make them happy are nearly twice as enthusiastic about voting this fall as those who say such a ruling would leave them angry. This leads me back to that Fox News poll you reported on last week, saying that 6 out of 10, or 60% for those in San Francisco, of voters were in favor of leaving Roe v. Wade. Okay. This poll doesn't show that at all. I have to believe, let's be honest, that the majority of the nation is still conservative. I think it's always has been.
Yeah, can I add?
And I think it still is.
And the reason why it's not making the...
Add what you want, Jim. Are you going to prove me wrong on something?
No, I'm actually going to prove you right. No. But,
well, damn it, then move on forward.
The reason why it's not making as much ground as what they said is this recent poll in Fox News, where it ranks what are the most important topics in this country right now.
Oh, God.
The future of the country and inflation is at 87%. Okay? They're either extremely or very concerned. Okay? The future of American democracy is next at 84%.
Wow.
Political divisions within the country is 81%. Ukraine is 80%. Higher crime rates, 79%. What's taught in our schools, 74%. Gun laws, 73%. Opioid addiction, 72%.
Wow.
Illegal immigration, 71%. Abortion policies is 69%. So that's why it's not having the effect they were hoping, because more people are concerned about these other issues that are more important and pressing. And how many times have we seen this where when you get violent, it turns American people off?
Every time. And that's what happened. They think still that the answer to their protesting is violence.
Yep.
We saw it in Wisconsin just over the weekend, where a pro-choice group sent Molotov cocktails into a pro-life organization's building, set it on fire. They think that that's still the answer.
Yeah.
That's how they get their message through. And it's not. And you clearly just said, Jim, I got to be honest with you. I am super surprised still that Ukraine is as high as it is.
I know.
On people's mind. I mean,
yeah.
It's a different subject, but nothing's happening.
Do you have the story on Carolyn Riley?
Carolyn Riley?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I do not.
Okay, this adds to what we're talking about.
Okay.
All right. After the incident that happened in Wisconsin, where legally people threw gas fire and blew up and set fire to a pro-life building, which is legal, it should be allowed. I mean,
absolutely.
anyway,
why wouldn't you?
I'm joking, people. Well, there was a reporter from Rewire News Group actually called for more violence against pro-life Americans, not not-for-profit organizations, Americans, pro-life Americans, you and I, okay?
Yeah.
Over the weekend, as she appeared to celebrate reports of vandalism against the headquarters of a pro-life group in Wisconsin. This is what she says in a tweet. You ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
More of this. May these people never know a moment of peace or safety until they rot in the ground. Carolyn Riley wrote in a now deleted tweet that she deleted.
Oh, of course she deleted
Twitter didn't delete it. She deleted it.
Yeah.
Sunday evening, responding to a report from the News Time. So, basically, now she's a liberal reporter, which, surprise, surprise, right? Okay,
shocked.
So she took it down because she got backlash from a lot of critics and everything else. But Twitter didn't take it down. Now, Elon Musk, eventually, when he takes over, is going to take this down. Folks, these are the people for your pro-life movement, or pro-choice movement. And the ruling hasn't even come out yet.
Oh, yeah.
We don't even know what they're going to rule. We've talked about this. I'm getting mad, but we've talked about this. If anything, it's going to go back to the states. So if you want to support killing a baby in California up until the age of 5 years old, I guess go ahead and do it. That's your choice in your state. I consider that murder, but do it. This isn't going to solve anything. Just like the pro-life people that firebomb and destroy Planned Parenthood places, okay? Or threatens the doctors who do abortions. I don't approve of that either. But this crap that's going on right now, and it hasn't even been decided yet. And what they're doing is they're trying to intimidate the justices that if when the ruling comes out, not verdict, but when the ruling comes out, they want to intimidate them to vote.
Intimidate them so much, Jim, that justices are now being moved out of their homes into secure locations for what should be a state right issue all along.
Right.
I mean, bottom line, state right issue all along. And so this is what we've come down to. Threatening, which is okay with Twitter, threatening, which is okay with the Democrats, unless you had anything to say about January 6th.
Right.
Then you're an insurrectionist. Then you should be locked away for life. But this threatening that, what did this broad say? What did this reporter say?
Rot in the ground.
That's okay, right? That's absolutely okay.
Oh,
she deleted it because she was getting shit for it. Like you said, Twitter didn't.
No, guys, she didn't attack groups.
She attacked
Americans.
You and me. You, me, my wife, my family,
Americans.
people. Everybody that I know that is pro-life that's an attack on them. And that's obviously a majority of the country based on the reporting we are now seeing, even from far left CNN. So, it's absolutely insane. Jim, you got anything else? One more? You got another story?
Not on abortion, but I have another story.
Nope. You do. So why don't we get to our final segment of the show, Jim? I'm letting you take it away like I have been the whole show. You're on, my friend.
Oops. Almost did it again. I waited a little bit.
You're good. You're good.
Okay.
I cut it all out anyways, you asshole.
I'm eventually going to get this right, I swear.
Eventually
and the
you
sad
will.
thing about it is, going into the show, I'm like, give the pause. And I never
Why don't you just post a little post-it note, like 5-second rule? That's all you got to remember.
Okay, right, so we're going to talk about another board meeting. And
our public schools, let's see.
Yeah,
go on.
South Dakota school.
Wow.
All right. Now, South Dakota locals expressed outrage during a school board meeting over novels that were taught to their 12th grade kids. So these are seniors. These are 18 years old.
Maybe.
Okay. So Well, could be 17. But anyway, the point is, I don't care if they talk about the books. I think that's old enough. Maybe if they want to talk about the books, that's fine, right?
I agree. Yeah.
Not these books. And
Uh-oh.
the reason not these books
Why, Jim?
is one of the books they called was talked Fun House.
That sounds fun. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, Fun House. They're fun. You go in, your face gets real big with the mirrors, and it's all a great time. It's fun.
I love those because I look skinny.
This was taught to a 12th grade. Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
This book depicts nudity.
Yeah.
And sex acts. Okay. Depicts. Doesn't describe it. Shows pictures.
Oh, that's what depicts me.
So, well, to case people from San Francisco.
I hear you. I know that.
And then a book called Girl, Women, and Other.
Wait.
Follows the journey of a woman of various sexual and gender identities. So a mom stands up and basically says, I'm not saying that these books aren't appropriate to teach. What I'm saying is the pictures in Fun House are graphic and depict two women performing oral sex, images of masturbation and drug use.
Drug use?
So during this board meeting, she goes, I do apologize if there are children present. There is a difference between teaching what sex is and teaching how to engage in it. And that's what's happening in this book. Okay, so before you guys accuse us of wanting to burn books and ban books and all this stuff, I am not for burning books and I am not for banning books. Because if I was for that, Hillary Clinton's books would have been destroyed a long time ago. All right? Barack Obama.
Good news for us, Hillary Clinton destroyed her own book by releasing it for sale. But go on.
And Barack Obama's books I would have wanted burnt, but I don't. Okay? Mm-hmm. So before you start doing all this shit, I don't want them burnt. Do these belong in a high school?
No.
Maybe at college, because in college, my freshman year, I actually watched The Clockwork Orange.
Yes.
There was rape in there. There was nudity in there. And I'm like, holy shit,
movie.
We're not in high school anymore. Yeah. But it was a horrible movie anyway. Okay. Mm-hmm. But anyway.
Overrated.
That and Blue Velvet, but those are another stories. Yes. But anyway, here we are again, where we have teachers and school boards feeling that it's important to bypass parents. And now, if they wanted to send, here's an example of the book that I am going to talk to the children about. Here is a document to sign off on.
I got so many questions.
Yeah, here's this document, but no, never even got a chance. So, again, here we are, folks. Please tell me, and I have people that are on the left that sit there and we talk about it all the time, very near and dear to my heart. I love them dearly. You can't tell me this is good.
I got questions. Let me ask you. First of all, is this the school system or a teacher saying, I want to teach this to my class?
The school system. The school system came out and said, we do not condone this.
Okay, good.
But the school systems, don't they approve the books the teachers teach?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So how did she? I guess I got a question, and this is rhetorical. You might not. Why would we know this? Maybe. But how was she able to? She just took it upon herself to teach it.
So right now, what I'm seeing from this article,
it's a rogue teacher.
The school. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing. Okay. But we'll find out shortly if that's the case, right?
Yeah.
Because that teacher's not going to sit there and die on the cross for this. No way.
No.
So, no, I didn't see. Now, to me, this teacher should have been fired because pornography, I'm thinking, shouldn't be taught. I'm just saying.
Pornography should. So, in all, I don't particularly. It's one thing to have health class and you talk about reproductive organs and how all that works, right? As you should. I mean, biology, that kind of thing, science, the whole works. even though after they get out of high school, science is thrown out the window because, they can't identify a woman. But you should be able to, teach that. I completely agree with that at a certain age. But my question is, Jim, is this is specifically teaching gay sex, right? Lesbians, right? Gay sex. I don't have any problem with any of it with them, but teaching kids that I do.
Yeah.
But not on top of that, they're teaching you how to perform oral sex during that. How to perform what? And on top of that, even if you're okay with your kids learning how to perform oral sex, even if you're okay with that, then they're like, now we're going to teach you how to drug use. How's this book even was it? What's this book called?
Funhouse.
Oh, it's called Funhouse. That's the Funhouse book.
And apparently,
sounds fun.
They did reference drug use in there. They did talk about
That's what I'm saying. On top of that, they're referencing drug use. Like, what was this teacher hoping to gain from teaching this shit?
But I will say
what's the end game?
Yeah. And this is because this is you and I, and this is what we do. Okay? Mm-hmm. So how many women are going to go out and buy this book for their husbands?
Yeah. Here. Rip out the drug use pages.
So, yeah, here's look at this. Okay,
here's the Cliff Notes. I still would only read the Cliff Notes. That's maybe my problem.
My God,
that is Jim. I can't even fathom that. It's this rogue Funhouse.
And this mother, and I, who just stated, I don't have a problem in 12th grade necessarily having a teacher talk about a book that talks about being gay, talks about transgender and stuff like that. I don't necessarily have a problem with that at that age.
Yeah.
What I have a problem with are the pictures, the play-by-play, all of this stuff in there. And all I have to say to this is, where in the hell were these teachers when I was in school? But anyway.
Do you know how long we had to struggle? We had to go through the Sears Roebuck catalog to look at the bras and panties.
Or the National Geographics. I mean,
we had the struggle was real for us back then. Apparently now, I'll tell you, my God, that's incredible. That's an incredible story, Jim. I'm telling you, Jim. I got to be honest with you. You carried the show today, my friend. You're the one who saw the movie. You've got a story on lesbian drug use, sex in our school system. You really carried the show today, my friend. I was happy to sit back and take a seat to this one.
The last thing I will say on the show,
sir.
Watch the 2000 Mules.
I think everyone should, and I will.
I can't stress it enough, and because the numbers, I don't remember the exact numbers, but the numbers are real and the numbers are there. And basically it all accounts to 2,000 mules. Now, keep in mind, these were 2,000 mules in just these 5 states, in these 5 cities.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
That's the
largest cities
we've said for a long time,
in these states. So
correct.
That's just those guys. And that's all they did. They didn't go out and do. So I don't know how much deeper they can go. Maybe it's these states in these particular largest cities in these states that they did this in. I don't know. I don't know what the point is. I can't get in their heads. But guys, I am now 100% convinced. 100% convinced that the election is a fraud and a sham. So before somebody comes out there, and I know there's going to be people out there that are going to say, "How do you know those votes weren't for Trump?" Does it matter?
Doesn't matter.
It's cheating.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter if it was for Trump.
We're not talking about the overturning of election. We're talking about election integrity.
Exactly, because we can't
fraud.
Overturn it. We can't.
Correct.
It's too much. We'll go through this stuff, and it's just ridiculous.
But but you're right. Good point, Jim. Does it matter? How do you know those weren't for? It's not about what they were for.
And I'm pretty sure.
Oddly enough, Trump was winning. They stopped counting in those cities. And next thing you know, the next morning, well, Dumbledore is our 46th president of the United States.
Which I would support 100%.
You would. But, the buffoon is our president, So you tell me, were they for Biden or Trump?
Yeah.
But the point still matters.
Yeah. Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter who they were for. Nope. Jim, fantastic review. I'm going to watch the movie because I should have, and I didn't this weekend. I was busy hanging out with Mom. It was Mother's Day. I did nice things. But you saw it with your
Saturday.
So that's a good thing.
I saw it with Saturday.
I'm kidding. I don't know when you saw it, so I'm kidding. But, guys, that's the show for today. I want to make an announcement to stay tuned to Thursday's show. We have an interview with a woman by the name of Stacey St. John. She is an owner of the cover company. It's called Olex Properties, LLC. It's not the reason we're interviewing her, but we'll go over all her information and she'll review it on the show. But the reason we're interviewing her is because of the Roe versus Wade decision. And she herself is pro-choice. And, of course, Jim and I are pro-life. So we wanted to get a perspective from somebody. And she's also a fellow podcaster. We'll get more into that. But stay tuned for that interview on Thursday.
Ended up being a good interview. I was very impressed.
She's before we even introduce it Thursday, we'll go into our thought process on her. And she was great. Yeah, she was absolutely great person. Very, 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 very easy to discuss and talk because we didn't scream at each other again like we shouldn't do.
Well, but you and I are professionals. You and I are the most sophisticated people that we both know. Yeah. And we know that in these last two interviews that we've had for people who completely disagree with us on about a lot of things, guess what, folks? You can have a good conversation and disagree.
And I'm going to tell you what, the interview is about 30 minutes. It's a shorter one. You're going to want to listen to that interview. Trust me. I mean that 100%. You're going to want to listen to that because it gets personal and it gets in depth. And, it was great. Absolutely great interview. And you're going to want to listen to that. Jim, thank you again for a great show. Please remember to follow us on YouTube and Rumble. Maybe not this episode.
YouTube will not be on. Yeah,
I'm saying. Catch us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to a podcast. We're on Apple. A lot of them draw from Apple. Thank our good friend Mark at the Conservitude for some of that information. And, of course, his guidance again. It's been very helpful. Don't forget to listen to him. But follow us, like us, share us. Please give us a review. It really would mean a lot. Jim, do you have anything else to add to today's show besides how great you were today? And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. You carried the show, my friend.
See, I can never tell when you're telling the truth, but thank you anyway. I appreciate it.
I literally am telling the truth this time.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, this time. Trust me this time, Jim. Trust me, my friend.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. You carried the show. I think I told you even before we started. Jim, it's all you today, buddy. I'm just going to hang around and I'm going to be the good looks. You be the brains today.
Well, you do the most of the behind the scenes. So every once in a while, I can do something.
Yeah. So if that all sucks, now you know who to blame. Me. So
that's why I said it.
Yeah. Thanks, Jim. Real big help. I compliment you. You tell everyone my recordings and editing's is shitty and all that other crap. Jim, thank you again, my friend. Great show. Always a pleasure. We'll see you all on Thursday.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.